Hello Horror Hounds, after a long wait, and isn't it always a long wait between instalments of the Phantasm franchise, 2016 finally brought us the fifth and final instalment, Phantasm 5, Phantasm Ravager, with the shock revelation that the true horror at the heart of this series of films is male pattern baldness. Phantasm Ravager initially started, according to the internet, as a web series, some web episodes, or webisodes as the cool kids call them, following Reggie on episodic adventures after the end of Oblivion. Then the webisode footage, ultimately it was expanded upon, turned into a feature film similar to Oblivion, and I said in my review to that, there's a few strands of storyline that don't really merge until the very end. One of those involving sort of this reclaimed footage from the original films. So here, these webisodes are being repurposed with new footage and stuff like that. But apparently all of this stuff was sort of shot piecemeal over a number of years. And when you find that out, and I found this out after I'd watched the film, and I went, that explains it. Even for a Phantasm film, it's kind of hard to give a potted synopsis for this movie. It seems to take place over 3 or more timelines or parallel realities. Reggie in the desert chasing the tall man, following on from the end of Oblivion. There's a post-apocalyptic future where Mike, Jody and Rocky from part 3 are part of a resistance team fighting the tall man who has more or less destroyed the earth, which to me reads like that's the reality in Oblivion, that Jody briefly takes Mike to that empty Las Vegas. Although I don't mean to overstate this, Jody essentially turns up right at the end as a sort of Deus Ex Machina. He screeches up and he's going, "Hey guys, want a lift?" Rocky is in some sort of, turns up in a mid-end credit little bit of footage, and I simultaneously went, "Hey Rocky, awesome." Oh, the film's over. Couldn't we, 45 minutes ago, couldn't we have had a... There's also a timeline or reality where Reggie's in a hospital visited by an adult Mike and is suffering from the effects of early onset dementia. And if you want any of these disparate elements to coalesce into a whole, then you can whistle for your supper. It ain't gonna happen. The tall man in this by now is all but completely defanged. Part of that admittedly will be to do with Angus Scrimm's age and what he's able to do physically. This is his swan song, and the scenes in the hospital with Alzheimer's Reggie, where he's playing the kind, gentle man, much more aligned with Jebediah Morningside that we saw briefly in Oblivion, are much more affecting than the times when he's asked to do, by now, very, very little as the tall man. These movies, especially in parts 3 and 4, that were seeming to be moving ever closer towards a deeper connection between the tall man and Mike, potentially dating back to around the American Civil War era, even giving hints that the tall man's ultimate plan was so cosmic and incomprehensible to a mortal mind that it might be that our band of heroes, Reggie, Mike and Jody, trying to prevent fulfillment of his plan might actually be the wrong thing to do. All of this goes completely by the wayside because taking your starting point as a series of webisodes focusing on Reggie, the film focuses on Reggie, and even an incomprehensible film going in the same direction as all the other films preceding it would have been preferable to an incomprehensible film that just completely changes gears on the entire franchise, completely changes direction and says, no, it's not all about Mike anymore, it's all about Reggie, and by the way, it was always all about Reggie. It's a bridge too far. I didn't buy it. The film, for the most part, doesn't look good. It looks like it's shot on some sort of personal HD camera that I could go out and buy, and that a lot of my viewers say that I should go out and buy to make these videos look better for you. But I'm just sitting in my living room doing this for a hobby. I'm not making a fucking feature film. At least the original film was filmed on film. At least it looked fucking great. I mean, it looks fucking gorgeous. This film looks flat and horrible. And the special effects in the originals were, for the most part, if not entirely, practical. Practical fucking spheres just thrown past the camera or thrown towards the camera, and the film played backwards to make it look like the spheres are coming towards the camera. It's real. The camera's filming something. The CGI spheres in this look like ass. I do ask myself, is it fair to hold Ravager to a higher standard than the original Phantasm? Is it fair to hold Ravager against Oblivion and to see practically all the same flaws, but with Oblivion be positive about the movie and with Ravager be almost wholly negative about the movie? It's not something I can necessarily reconcile, apart from, well, let's be kind for a minute. There is something to be said about the filming conditions of this one mirroring those of the original. Maybe I should give it more of a break. I know this film has got its fans, and they're very eloquent online about why they love this movie. It just didn't click with me. There's also a mirror between this film and the original's meditations on death and loss. Ravager is about aging, it's about letting go, it's about allowing yourself to die, whereas to bookend that, Mike and his obsession with death and mortality at the start, he couldn't let go, wouldn't let go. And there is a sense in this film of saying goodbye, us as fans saying goodbye to these characters, and this is the last film, and especially metatextually saying goodbye to Angus Scrimm. So maybe, am I being too hard on this? But for the film to be all about Reggie and for us to suddenly be asked to swallow the possibility that the entire franchise is stories made up in his dementia-addled brain, when everything has been moving towards, as it's always been about Mike. Reggie has always been the out of his element, last man standing sidekick who kind of has to do it because he's the only one left to go and save Mike. The focus has always been on Mike, and now we're told that it's just a dying mind creating these illusions, which is fine as a concept, because that was hinted at the end of Oblivion, that perhaps this is part of the dying thoughts of Mike. Why are we suddenly jumping into someone else's fucking head? When the reality shifts happen and we start jumping around, I swear it's nothing that you haven't seen 100 times before in movies and TV. The viewer is up to speed way, way before the film gets there. To the extent, I mean, this is now such a cliche. It's on TV Tropes website that I was expecting it to be something else, another gear, but no, it just keeps making the same narrative flourish over and over again with Reggie shifting between all of these realities. I made a brief, off the top of my head, list of movies and TV shows that use the it's all the imagination of a dying mind trick, or the our character is actually in an asylum and the entire film or TV show is actually going on and is a delusion of their mind. Total Recall, Brazil, Return to Oz, Shutter Island, Jacob's Ladder, Mulholland Drive, Hellraiser Inferno, Hellraiser, Hellseeker, Vanilla Sky, Farscape, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Life on Mars, Smallville, Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Lost, Ash vs. Evil Dead did it recently, The Twilight Zone. They did it in half an hour. The Twilight Zone, Red Dwarf, Charmed, Saint Elsewhere. And I finished off my notes with the Reggie Rap. The end credits play out to a song called The Reggie Rap. And yet, with Mike, Jody, and Reggie all back inside that car together at the end, the film just about manages to reach the level of nostalgia tinged with sadness, the kind of melancholy that the Phantasm series up until this point has been all about, with one crucial change. Whereas before, and I touched upon this in my talk about Oblivion, whereas before, anytime they were in a vehicle or car, the world outside was blackout sheets, was eternal blackness. At the very end of this movie, it's bright, unbroken white light. There is a kind of release at the end. The movie at the very end attains some of the connective tissue to the four previous films, just not in the preceding 83 minutes or so. This film's 85 minutes long and it drags. But who cares what I think? I like to try and round off these videos with alternate viewpoints culled from Internet Movie Database user reviews. It has to be said, for fairness, there are a lot of very positive reviews on IMDb. It's just that the vast majority of the reviews defending the movie and being positive about the movie are very long. But Shanghai Joe from the United States, who calls his review "Shh, Billy, it's all right now, shh, yummy, yummy bleach," says that Ravager is boring, incoherent, terrible looking garbage. Every single person involved should be ashamed. The entire world should be ashamed. All living things have in some small way contributed to this travesty. As such, the entire planet should be sucked into a black hole and the universe should end. At the very least, this film is a vile crime against art. I estimate the budget to be derived from loose change the producer found underneath his sofa cushions. Phantasm Ravager is like the Mexican space program, ambitious, but a trash can propelled by firecrackers and good intentions doesn't get far. A movie with the budget of the Mexican space program isn't going far either. I give it 2 stars. I should have just started and ended with that review. It's fucking brilliant. This is a positive review from Jay Caslas in the United States, titled Unapologetically Biased Fan Review. Although I think Jay Caslas goes a little off script. If you're a fan of Phantasm, please see this film first before you taint your experience by reading its reviews. You owe it to yourself. Ravager is a complete mess. Half-baked sci-fi has completely replaced the franchise's horror elements. The spheres, intensely more frightening and realistic in the first two films, flying around dark mausoleum hallways at high speeds like guided missiles, have been upgraded to laughably cheap CG constructs with unbelievable physics, surpassed tenfold by technology from 1979. With that being said, this is a phantasm movie and it was great to see these actors together again one more time. It has a lot of problems, but still a lot to like about it. 11 out of 10. There's consistency for you.